RTD Live Talk, streaming live on a Tuesday evening, and I had some technical issues trying to stream from more than one place. So it's been a week since I've been on, and I'm looking forward to open up the microphones tonight and seeing what's happening out there in RTD Live Talk space. And so still trying to figure out exactly how to improve the quality of the stream and things of that nature. So give it a second before I begin chit-chatting. But I hope everyone's doing well for those that are tuned in. And as always, if you are a new viewer to the chat, definitely in the chat section, let me know where you're checking in from. I would love to get a chance to say hello and give some shout outs to any new viewers out here in the RTD Live Talk space. And so I attempted to get on usually at 9:30ish, but yet something always happening. I'm always running late some way or another. But looking forward to getting a chance to see what's going on out here. So we got Construct Dismal. How you doing, my friend? Good evening. Hope all is well with you. What else we got out here? We have Entrepreneur. Hey, so what do you think about LIVE-RTD 2021? Very interesting. That's a very great topic. And I actually, prior to recently, never really paid any attention to the whole LIBOR manipulation and whatnot. But this past weekend, I literally took a lot of time to better understand that. And I was able to formulate a good, I think a well-rounded viewpoint on how that could be a tool utilized to restructure all forms of debt, including our mortgages and whatnot. And so definitely it can be a tool that will be used, but it will be catastrophic in the fact that if they are not able to come up with a stable exchange rate or our interest rate system that everyone agrees upon, it's still going to be very problematic, just because you'll have debts that are expiring or debts that are due at certain rates here, and it's going to cause chaos. So it's going to be hard to get the public back into believing in the banking system all together if they are not able to come together before 2021, when the LIBOR is set to basically be done away with in exchange for another system that is still not approved by all the 20 major, or I think it's 24 major banks that are part of the agreement process in regards to setting bank rates and whatnot. So it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out, just because, once again, it's all in response to what's happening globally, and it's not. They probably have to speed that process up a lot faster than they want. So we have Lauren Lewis from Charlotte, North Carolina. How you doing this evening? He says, we have Central Indiana, Tom Manley. How you doing, buddy? We have Lauren Lewis. I think these next few months are going to be nuts if this 10-year rate keeps climbing above 3%. Yeah, it seems like there's a pin that can prick a bubble or cause some type of burst in some financial asset, whether it be the stock market, the bond market. Any minute now you have, what appears to be the crypto market, which is ready to surge, which is going to cause a lot of people to sell out of conventional financial instruments in hopes of chasing some of those gains that could be coming to the crypto sector. Then you have just the idea of that, at the end of the day, people don't really want to hold currencies much longer. Nevertheless, keep it in the banking system. So it's going to be a lot of people withdrawing money to try to get in the crypto space. So it's going to be very, very chaotic. I do agree, Lauren. Ed Warner, how you doing from Philly? Welcome, my friend. Welcome. And so, as always, the goal is to basically open up the mics and see what's happening in your world. And so, on my end, I tend to cover a lot of things related to dollar, related to monetary policy. And so, over the last couple of days, I had a chance to really share a couple of those whiteboard presentations, which I think are very informative as well as entertaining, as far as giving a good viewpoint as to what's happening. Construct Dismal says, Mike, can you expound on the current military situation, how it may affect the overall economic picture? And so when you say military situation, What exactly are you referring to other than just the typical response that our government has in regards to attempting to impose our military might everywhere that there's a threat? So beyond having the Syria crisis, which is kind of playing off in two different ways, because some people say that Trump basically initiated that airstrike, not really hitting the primary targets, but just sending a warning shot because Russia really didn't respond in the way that a lot of people would imagine they would if some key Syria targets or some Russian military or Russian positions were attacked. And so it kind of flew under the radar as of now because it's a week later, 2 weeks later, and there's been no retaliation or response. And so a lot of people say that it's in preparation for still bringing home the troops out of Syria. And so we'll see what happened with that. But it's going to be interesting to see what happens with that. And then we have, as always, the military out east. And so it's going to be interesting to see how this whole North Korea summit plays out, because I imagine and I assume that they don't want peace with North Korea because we need an ally. We need an enemy. And so Kim Jong-un is definitely a good enemy worth continue to spread via media, along with Russia and China being manipulators and all other stuff. So, but of course, the military is going to be there to reinforce or reimpose their will on anyone that steps out of line. So we'll see how that happens. But if you refer to anything military-wise directly, please let me know. Construct Dismal. So we have, we said invasion of Syria, 103 bombs at 1 million each. Oh, that's just the military industrial complex. So nothing new at all. So we have a call. Hello, caller. Hello.
Hello.
Hi there. How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. How you doing?
I'm doing excellent. What's your name? Where you calling from?
I'm Greg. I'm from California.
Greg from California.
I follow your show all the time. I think it's really good. But I got a question for you.
Yes, sir.
What do you think about the bond market?
What do I think about the bond market? Well, other than just go ahead.
I'm sorry, there's a delay, but what do you think of it getting the 10-year getting over 3% as of today? And what do you think the future is for gold? Because doesn't that raise interest rates, which is not good for gold?
Very good point. And to be honest with you, as far as the full-fledged details of the bond markets, I am not too familiar with it, other than the fact that everyone who's holding bonds that are well less than 3% are going to be on the outside looking in as far as losing a lot of money. Hello? So,
yeah, I'm still here.
Yep. So at the end of the day, I think it's going to spell trouble for our economy in general, just because not only, as I mentioned earlier, the bond market is going to be a major problem, but then, whenever the bond market fluctuates or there's problems there's always problems in the stock market. And in time past, as you mentioned, gold typically responds well. And so as you noticed the last couple of days, there was an increase in the price, but yet it was automatically a quick sell-off. So we'll see. But that's the thing. In this type of environment, we don't know how things will play off because we're using prior experiences to gauge what could be, but yet we are in new territories where I can never guess or suspect how things may play off, but we can see as things are starting to come apart rather at the seams. So time will tell.
Right, and the debt level compared to the last time we had a inverse yield is a lot different now. So I wonder how that's going to impact the severity of our economic future.
That is a very good point, very good question there. But yet also keep in mind that I believe that the central banking powers that be don't want to lose control without having some fallback plans or something in the mix. So I hear a lot of other alternative media gentlemen talking about the need for some type of false flag right now to kind of get our attention off, to try to get our attention off of what could be. Because as of now, you're hitting at the bond market. I was talking about, the stock market, and we talk about possible war. We talk about the Kim Jong. So all these things that are happening right now. So basically, they need some type of diversion tactic to kind of get our minds off of these things, and then which will allow us to be in need of some more debt expansion in the form of whether it be funding a war or funding some type of catastrophic event or something like that. So there's a need right now for a big spike in debt. So with that being the case, who knows what could be around the corner as far as what could be in the mix as far as some type of false flag. So, but yet I hear your point there, but we'll never know until time reveals itself.
Right. Right on. Hey, man, like your show. Keep it up.
Thank you, my friend. I appreciate you calling in. Enjoy your evening.
You too, man.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like we can guess, assume how things may play out, but because we've never been in these type of waters where we're already at what appears to be peak debt, and the fact that, as you mentioned, the bond situation is very, very questionable. Then you got the stock market on top of that is waiting to just collapse. Then you have what's happening in Canada, which I haven't really covered much of, but I'm hearing that it's really, really bad up there. Then you have the EU situation, more QE that's needed over there. Then you have Bank of Japan, QE until infinity. So all these dominoes are just piling up one by one. So we'll see. Tom Manley says, Jim Willie calls for 13,000 gold today on Rogue Money. I will also have heard 20K when gold when the bank said debt doubly and pump up those prices to cover the ass. What are your thoughts? I definitely agree. And I also listened to that interview earlier as well. And I like how Jim talks about the idea that there's going to be, pretty soon there's going to be multiple mechanisms for pricing gold. And so I would imagine that the whole Shanghai Gold Exchange, excuse me, will be one mechanism. Then we're going to have the Western powers, and those are going to be very different prices. Then it's going to be a matter of if it's a different price based upon a higher price rather than Shanghai in comparison to here, then at that point, will people from the Western nations look to sell off some of their metals in exchange for digital or paper or whatever at a higher price, or will people look to buy more? So it's going to be some problems on the supply side, because if you have two different prices, people are going to be looking to sell right away, and a lot of people are going to be looking to buy at the same time. So I think gold definitely will go up, because every fiat dollar or fiat currency need to be accounted for in some form or fashion, and metals tend to be the best version of doing that, especially when we get into hyperinflationary type of environment. So gold price will go up, and that's my thing, is I don't really pay attention to the price as much as I do to the fact that just having it physically in your possession is better than not having it, because everyone watching Rethinking the Dollar knows that the end goal or the end outcome of all fiat currencies is going to be zero. They're going to be inflated away, just because we're reaching a point now where we're at peak debt, and so they need to continue to increase debt, which means expanding the money supply. And then it's going to run into a problem of, too much paper and digits chasing too few goods, which is going to spell trouble at the end of the day. So gold price has to go up. As far as the actual number, I don't really concern myself with it, just because my biggest thing is just having something physical in your hand. Because at the end of the day, if things do inflate the way that a lot of people suspect in comparison to what's happening in Venezuela and throughout history in general, there won't be no price of paper that you'll be willing to really give it away for anyway, unless you're looking to buy or exchange it for something tangible directly. So what we said, no offense, but I trust crypto less than fiat, and I don't trust fiat at all. Yeah, very true. Most people, based upon what's happening now with the, all the cryptos being in the green for the most part, that's basically saying that people prefer, the crypto over having paper any day. So I'm pretty sure that there's going to be more paper chasing crypto any day now. All ones and zeros. I trust software engineers more than bankers. Says Danny, Iran dropped the Warhammer by trading euro instead of petrol. Yeah, so Danny, good point there. I saw some things on that, but I didn't get a chance to dive into it further. But since I'm on here now, let me take the time. Iran dumps dollar for euro. So I know Iran was already had bilateral trade agreements and whatnot with Russia and with China using gold directly or under the table, but I never knew that they were actually dumping dollars directly. So I see here a report. So yeah, so I didn't have a chance to dive into this, but since I'm here, let me straighten this up and find out a little bit more about this, because I regret not having a chance to talk about it earlier. But we have a caller. Hello, caller. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hey, Mike. This is Andreo. I'm calling from Atlanta, Georgia. How you doing?
I'm doing excellent, my friend. Thanks for calling in. What's on your mind this evening?
Yeah, so I was just watching your live show right now, and it's great. But I do have one question for you, and it might be a pretty hard one.
Well,
here it goes.
Okay, go ahead. I'll do the best I can to answer it. If I can't answer it, I'll let you know that it's not my realm. But anyway, go ahead.
Okay. The banks you say the banks will not let America fall without the World Bank's having a plan, right? And in your opinion, what is that plan?
Well, there's been a lot of things floating out there for several years from various sources, such as, if we use Jim Rickards, for example, he mentions how the SDR by the U.S. allowing an additional currency into the SDR basket in the form of the yuan, that they are basically placating to the idea of allowing or easing this monetary shift or restructuring to where they're going to use the SDR if China agrees to be a part of it temporarily. So the SDR could be something that the government or the banks themselves or governments use, or which they'll issue amongst themselves just to keep confidence in the system temporarily. And so that's an option that's been thrown out there. And then we have the more of the behind the scenes, why Russia and why China accumulated so much gold type of theory. And so a lot of people say that they're going to roll out some type of gold-backed currency directly to basically just derail the dollar altogether as a second option. Then we have the introduction of the blockchain, cryptocurrency, whatever. So we know from other commentators saying that I think it's the IMF or one of those institutions are preparing to tokenize every single financial asset out here, period, onto the blockchain under some type of A chain or AC chain or whatever it's called. So utilizing the blockchain, utilizing gold, or utilizing something that's already been planned to roll out in the SDR are all options that could be thrown out there that would allow the banking system / governments to continue to do things, but internally within the countries, all the fiat currency is going to have a hell of a problem. So we'll see how they deal with that. But that could be some possible scenarios that I've heard and came across myself.
Okay. All right, man. Thank you for that.
My pleasure. So hopefully, so that's the thing, like, because we've never really been in a situation where there's been this much debt and there's so many, and everything is interconnected. So you got the derivatives markets, you got all those things, you got the cryptocurrency causing disruption. We've never known conditions like this. So these are all just theories and opinions, but I'm sure you can agree that something is happening and something's going to be different in the days ahead.
Well, the reason I ask is because I see a lot of doom and gloom all over YouTube, and from a lot of also like credible or very credible like media sources.
Yeah.
You know, it's doom and gloom. 2018, 2019, it's all gonna come crashing down. And I'm like, wait, the world banks are not that dumb. I mean, America's still there, you know, has a lot of money in it.
Right.
They're not going to let that place fall down unless they have a pretty good backup plan.
Right. I do agree. And at the end of the day, whatever the plan might be, it's not going to be in our favor anyway. So that's why I've never been one of the people who are so excited or overly excited for what the cryptocurrency and blockchain offers as a way of counteracting the banking system, just because, once again, it's showing to be something worthwhile right now, but at the end of the day, you know, it's no real telling what the game plan was in it being introduced, other than the fact it was supposed to help the economy, help the people do transactions amongst ourselves. But I'm still leery on the source and where it came from and how it will end up being used, you know what I'm saying, in the long run. So time will tell.
Exactly. And I'm pretty sure those world banks are trying to figure out some kind of way to control or regulate the new cryptocurrency thing. You know?
Yeah.
They're just they're scrambling to find a way. But anyway, I won't hold you up. You got a great show. Thank you, man.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for all right. I'll see you.
All right, have a good night. Appreciate the call. Yeah, so that brings me to another area that really hit me the other day in regards to the whole crypto space, is that they're going to eventually, probably this year, if there's so much hype like there is in the alternative media world, and if you're watching YouTube, whatever, every video, every advertisement rather, is, you know, on my side when I go watch videos, it's, you know, do you have an IRA? You can get an IRA, crypto IRA, and all this stuff like that. So there's been so much hype behind cryptocurrency that they're going to eventually have to step in and really regulate and clamp down on some things. And so just recently, I heard that the SEC decided to send out some type of memo or something like that to all the exchanges in the United States of America, asking for a questionnaire of some kind with questions And so I saw that, I think it was Kraken or something like that, mentioned that they're not going to comply with this, with some of the things that they needed. And so eventually they're going to find themselves being shut down or basically being just cut offline. And so here's the thing. If all the cryptocurrency exchanges are either shut down or there's some type of hiccup in regards to people not being able to exchange fiat for crypto, then how will you actually get into the crypto market in and of itself? So that could be a problem if you can't get rid of your fiat as easily as you can by, say, going to Coinbase or going to Gemini or any of these places that are currently allowing you to buy crypto for your paper. And if they cut that off, then how do you get in the crypto market? And as of right now, the atomic swap situation is not up and running because you still need to get out of peak currency. And so that's going to be a way that they're going to really probably clamp down on this boom that's coming, as a lot of people suspect. So that's just my opinion. But before I get into some more questions, I want to actually update myself on this article here because I didn't get a chance to really go through it, but I want to find out some details. It says the government of Iran Central Bank, Vala Sef, said that Supreme Leader Ayatollah Al-Khamenei had welcomed his suggestion on replacing the dollar with the euro in foreign trade as, quote, the dollar has no place in our transactions today. The new policy could reportedly encourage government bodies and firms linked to the state to increase their use of the euro at the expense of the American currency. So basically with that, just off reading that in and of itself, it looks like Iran is inviting the United States military industrial complex to come invade and bomb. That's an open invitation to come bomb them right now. So that's very dangerous. So I imagine that because they now have some of Russia's defensive systems, that they're feeling like they can probably stop a couple missiles or whatnot. But that is the fact that they are already on shaky water with us. The United States government or the military industrial complex already want to bomb them amongst the other 7 nations. And so they're the last one on that 7-country hit list. That is not, that doesn't spell a good situation for them, in my opinion, but we'll see. But definitely, I kind of late to the news on this one, but interesting. That's interesting, man. The fact that they're going to openly come out and say they're going to dump the dollar in exchange for the euro, as if the euro is any better. I mean, the way they print euros over there, buying up every single thing imaginative, everything you can think of is being bought over there. So I wouldn't necessarily want to hold no euros myself, but that is what it is. So let me. So I'm showing that I'm no longer live, as if my internet is down. So I can't really tell. So I need someone to comment in the chat section if I'm still streaming live, because on my end it's loading. So I want to make sure I'm still streaming live. So let me see. So people are chiming in. So you are live. Okay, so you are live. So on my end is loading. So I couldn't tell, but I apologize for the pause. So any other thing out there happening? I have never been through such a long waiting process. This tells me a lot about investment going through gold. Hold on. So Lauren, what are your? I missed your comment. It says tells me a lot of investment about going to gold. Is that gold money that you're referring to? All your gold and silver will not save you from the wrath of the Most High. Yeah, well, very true. Very true. At what point will the bank start calling in bad loans, and how much time will you have if the bank did call in the loans? Oh man, that's a very different angle that I never really bothered to consider. If banks begin calling in loans, I'm not sure the legality behind that, but I'm sure they can, because they kind of make the rules. And then to factor in that whole LIBOR situation, that for a lot of people, once they're apparently, from reading up and watching some videos myself, that once the LIBOR rate is canceled or no longer up and running, and there's no way of measuring what the interbank rates are, then at that point, the banks, for the most part, on all contracts, or a good majority of them, have the right to then impose or enforce their own without the lendee's approval. So they can kind of come up with their own rate. And at that point, that would be a way of calling in a loan down the line, of course. But that'll be a good way of changing the game up on a lot of people. But the thing is, if they call in loans, they're going to be stuck with property. They're going to be stuck with houses and cars that they won't be able to sell because most people can't afford to pay off their loans right away. So that's going to be a major issue if they decide to call in loans, which they're more than capable of doing so. So we have here, it says, does anyone have experience with gold money? I've been trying to open an account for 4 weeks now. Have been waiting to pass KYC. They must be swamped with new accounts. Lauren, I've been a gold money member for quite a while now. I don't really use my account as much because once they became very commercialized, that's when they started asking all types of questions that know your banker, know your customer laws, and so it got away from what was originally Bit Gold, in which it was very exciting when it was just Bit Gold. But as they grew and became a publicly traded company, everything changed up to where they became more of an actual bank. And you know, I personally don't really do it as much, but I still have my accounts to have some money in there or whatever. It says, but I'm not sure why they could be swamped. But there's other places that I would recommend you use as well if you're looking to actually hold your metals on somewhere. And it's another place that I use banking wise or alternative banking wise, and it's UPMA, which is United Precious Metals Association out in Utah. So that's another good place that you can actually do this. It's the same concept as gold money, but yet you actually can get a debit card and stuff like that. And it's actually a little bit more user friendly. The interface is a lot easier, and it's more up it's more of what gold money or Bit Gold used to be prior to now. So I would say check into that. That'd be a good alternative. Yep, I have a little fiat and gold money. I opened my account early in the game. I have only deposited and moved some fiat. I haven't heard much investment problems until yours. Yeah, and that's the thing. Like there's more and more companies coming out now with the option of purchasing gold or silver directly, having it stored there, and then getting a debit card to use. So there's other alternatives out there. Well, which I wouldn't, you know, my opinion, I would do more than just one, because you never know how, in what territory, what jurisdiction that gold money is in. Even though you can put it in different locations, you know, we don't really know if that stuff is there or not, other than just assuming that it is because, you know, we deposit it and we can put it where we want to put it currently. But we'll see. It says you take your Forex currency trading, good versus bad moving forward. Forex currency trading, Reptilian, I don't really know much about that. I follow that much. I've never been, of course, I think, in my opinion, I think there's some gains or some profit that can be made in the short term, the day trading side of the Forex, but in the long term, I don't really know much about it to where I would want to dip and dabble. Like I hear some people say, because they suspect that the yuan will eventually be backed by gold, they say, you know, should I buy yuan or renminbis? And I'm thinking, like, you know, I wouldn't really want Chinese yuan in my possession, just because if it is backed by gold, we can't spend it over here and it's not legal tender here. So unless you're going to use it there or find a way to exchange it, you're going to be stuck with fiat currency over here. So I wouldn't really, bank on any fiat currencies whatsoever, no matter what government it comes from. What are your favorite crypto investment picks? Angelic Sexton. Oh, my favorite. I can actually show you my favorite. I can show you my favorite, of which they are. It's not just these, but ones that I believe, of course, apart from one that is not. It's more so low key than anything else. But I'll actually show it to you guys, because as always, this channel here is self-funded, time-wise, and everything else. But I'll actually show you directly what I'll actually show you directly. So as you guys see here on my little donation page, you know, my favorite ones, of course, is Litecoin, and then I'm also a big fan of Vertcoin. And so I'll probably say Vertcoin is my second favorite coin, just because it has a lot of similarities of Litecoin and Bitcoin, of course. But yet the team for Vertcoining is doing everything they can to mimic everything Litecoin does, to where they technically have every single thing ready to go or ready at the same level as Litecoin, just not much of a market cap, and they're not well known as far as being a household name for a lot of people. But Vertcoin is probably my second favorite. Bitcoin, you know, been there, done that. I think just because it's the first, it gets a lot of hype behind it, but not really all that a fan of it. But these two to the far right are my favorite coins. So just a little, that's just my thoughts. And of course, a lot more. I love the privacy tokens or privacy coins, you know, all types of them. I like those as well. So those are all some things that I believe will be worth your while in the long run. It says you're good. So I hear you and see you fine. You're good. Let me see. So your morning video, you said you was interested in gold mining. I'm already in gold mining. Only thing about that is that real slow. I'm invested in some of them is the B. Some of them is B to gold, better than gold. Yeah. So yeah, so my thing. So yeah, I definitely am looking to interview more mining company CEOs and people, just so I can educate myself. So before I get into anything, I want to talk directly to the source. And so having Jeff on earlier was a great way for me to connect with the CEO and sit down, and we had a great conversation behind the scenes, and I learned a lot. And so I know that what they have going on is going to be pretty legit. So I'm going to definitely look into it further. And so I just believe in being able to diversify and put some crumbs and put some seeds everywhere in anticipation for something sprouting. And so I wouldn't definitely put everything into one single basket, but I believe in learning about it. You know, you can't go wrong with at least learning for yourself. Says Sergeant Crypto, hey Mike, I'm in NYC and want to know a reputable site or a place to get gold. A reputable place, I would say, would be SD Bullion. And so if you check out any of my prior videos, I have like a little partnership type of thing where you can get a 10-ounce bar at spot price for silver. But yet I personally, because they're in my state and I follow some of the team there, so I kind of got a little rapport with those guys. So that's kind of where I like to do my shopping. But yet there's other ones that there's about 3 or 4 where I go. I comb the market looking for the best price on certain items. So there's SD Bullion, which I recommend. If you want to be a blessing to the channel, sdbullion.com/RTD. Take advantage of that bar. But other than that, there's JM Bullion. And then if you want something different in the form of silver as well as gold, there's Monarch Precious Metals that out in Colorado, I believe, or Denver, or on that side of the country. But anyway, so there's a lot of places, but definitely SD Bullion would be my favorite just because they're, you know, my hometown state, so not too far from me. Says silver chart show like a coiled spring. I can't see it going much lower stackers. Yeah, and that's the thing. I'm so, yeah, not just because I probably do this, because I'm consumed in this world so much. I really don't pay attention to the price. Like I really, man, like I got over the price years ago just because at the end of the day, and just rethinking a dollar, the Federal Reserve note is going to go to zero eventually. It's the longest standing currency on the planet, and at the end of the day, it's going to be every investor's nightmare, in my opinion. I've actually been thinking about some videos I'm gonna talk about and try to really come with a solid stance on a viewpoint that I could use as my anchor, and it has to do with something around the lines of the Federal Reserve note will end up being I was gonna say the Federal Reserve Federal Reserve note will be your biggest financial liability. And so that's going to be I was playing with it, but that's going to be my anchor statement for rethinking the dollar from now on. Just because, you know, just thinking long term. A lot of people might say you're crazy. The Federal Reserve is not going to go away to dollar this, dollar that. But if you follow me from a while back, there's a distinction between the Federal Reserve note and a dollar. And if you look at the dollar according to what it is in the Coinage Act of 1792, it's a weight of silver. And so apart from, you know, silver being demonetized in 1873, to me, silver is still the people's money. So I would prefer a coin dollar over a paper dollar any day. Of course, just look at the value of one coin to one piece of paper. You need 20 pieces of paper roughly to get one coin in the form of American Eagle. So that coin is going to always be one coin, but yet you're going to always need more Federal Reserve notes as time goes on. So don't pay attention to the price as much as you pay attention to how much weight you possess. And so I have another little ebook title I was working on in regards to, get your weight up. So I want to tell people, a lot of people nowadays, especially in the Western world, talk about losing weight. I'm like, if you are a monetary, advocate or enthusiast of sound money, you want to get your weight up. So just stuff I'll be playing with, trying to find catchy ways of getting people's attention to help people wake up and see what's going on. It says, honestly, I put all in silver. It was 50 an ounce. Wow. A few years ago, I figured I could only go up, way up, more due to last year's. Man, Danny, man, you put everything in at $50 an ounce. That's rough. Whew. Yeah, I can imagine if you got in at a much higher price, I can imagine how you could be antsy or think about or waiting to basically recoup some of that money that you apparently lost as of now. But I would recommend that you just stay heavy, man. Stay heavy. Get your weight up. That's what I tell you. Get your weight up. Does the Fed really have time to clamp down on crypto, considering they have to worry about the penny bond market meltdown, inflation pressure, plus all the derivatives floating around? I would say, yeah, they got time, because they're not trying to let go of this, because I believe that if the Federal Reserve happens to lose control of what's happening now, then there's going to be more sources and more people willing to point the blame in their direction. And that can then eventually lead to the idea of ending the Fed. Because once people are exposed to the idea that the Fed is not federal and that it's not in our best interest, that is a private institution ran by the banks and pays the bank's interest for holding reserves in their possession, and it's all done in conspiracy / just to siphon the American wealth, I can imagine the Federal Reserve Bank as we know it today being dismantled or broken up. But because they own so much real estate, I don't really think they'll go away. They'll probably just rebrand themselves to, and we'll probably call it the United States, Federal Treasury. And then they'll keep everything the same. We'll supposedly make it a government entity, but they'll still run it. So we'll see. But I think they can print as much money as they need to keep this thing afloat. And if you are able to print or digitize Federal Reserve notes at any amount you want, you can prop things up for a long time, as I imagine they're doing now with buying a lot of those treasuries that are being sold from our treasury holders. So we'll see. So, but I, because of trading at $50 a year a few years ago, but I bought because it was trading at $50 a year ago. Yeah, so Danny, I believe that you probably was anticipating, it going up from there. And so that's, that was 2011-ish. So yeah, at that time, I wasn't really as aware of the monetary system as I was now. So I got in a little bit. I got in more so on the downside of that. It says bought silver at $1.25 per ounce. Wow. Yeah, I remember back in the day, I think it was mid 2000s. And I was, for whatever reason, I just felt like I should have purchased some silver or gold back then. I knew what it was. I knew, about American Eagles and Silver Eagles and whatnot. And I just didn't buy any. And I think it was like $5 or something. And I'm thinking like, man, if I would have just followed my instinct back then, I could have, acquired a lot more just for savings purposes, not really looking to make a profit or for it to increase, but just to have. I'd have been a much heavier person today. 5 silver quarter eagles equal to 1 ounce in 1974. Price was $1.25 per ounce. 5 silver quarter eagle. Yeah, man. 5 silver quarter. That's amazing, because those 5 silver quarters now are definitely worth a lot more. Let me actually, I love looking at, actually bookmark some stuff. I love looking at numismatic coin prices, as well as the price of different coins in regards to the metal composition rather. Coin. Let me got coin prices. I think it is coin prices. Silver coin prices. See what pops up. I can't think of the site I usually go to. Here we go. Yeah, so this is a site that I often check out just for the sake of seeing what the current rate of silver value is in coins. And so here we have, 1942, 1945 nickel. Face value is 5 cents, but it's actually worth 93 cents. And that's another thing. I'm not sure about you, but for myself, whenever I do anything with paper and I get change back, it's a habit now to just shake it, listen for something in the form of a pre-65 quarter. So I look at the size of my quarters or whatnot, look at the edges, make sure they brown and not silver. Because I've actually come across a couple jewels in the last couple years. So it's a habit now. I just love shaking coins. It's like a little treasure hunt. But as you see all these prices here, imagine having, and I just think about the idea of, imagine back in 1892. And I've actually done some videos in the past on how a day's wage during this time, 1892, a day's wage was probably, depending on what line of work you're in, it's probably like, 10 cent or like 25 cent a day or something like that. It was 25 cent an hour. In 1913, it was 25 cents an hour for a manual labor job or something of that nature. An hour, 25 cent an hour, yeah. So 1892 it was maybe like 25 cent a day or 50 cent a day in an actual silver coin, man. That blows my mind sometimes when I think about that. So we got here 1986 to 2013 Silver Eagle. It says $1 on the back, but it's worth $16.62. So here's another thing. Here's a good way of looking at it, and how I basically just shift my paradigm in regards to thinking about the price, the paper price, is the fact that no matter what, this Silver Eagle, which is labeled as a $1 coin, it is no way possible that it will ever go to an actual physical price of $1. So silver value is $16.62 as of today. It is no way that this will ever go back down to $1. So just keeping one of these, a Silver Eagle, just keeping one for the sake that it says one on the back means you'll always be ahead, because you will never lose out in regards to value being retained in that silver in comparison to your paper. So, even if this price went to $100, it's good to say, apart from making a little profit or whatever, if you're sitting heavy, you would never get rid of that $1 coin anyway, just because you're gonna think it's gonna go even higher. So at the end of the day, don't worry about the paper price, just because at the end of the day, I would imagine that if there is some type of hiccup or reset, you're gonna want to exchange some of those silvers into that new currency or the new legal tender that might be issued that will actually, probably be a lot, the exchange rate for Silver Eagle into some new form of currency might end up being a lot more favorable than try to put it in the Federal Reserve notes and then take Federal Reserve notes into that new currency, whatever it might be. So just my thoughts. But here's a little website. It's called coinflation.com for those that might want to check out what's happening with the silver. So yeah, that's what's happening with the silver roll. What do you, I get sidetracked so easy. It says, got a roll of these silver 5-cent pieces. RTD, do you think cryptocurrency was manipulated and inflated in order to stretch a fiat into getting more precious metals for your buck? Because I found it strange bullion banks would accept crypto. Ooh, good question. Manipulated. I believe that anything that is in the hands, as I mentioned before, anything where there's some type of asset that's in the hands of a few, or in the hands of a few, but the majority of it is in the hands of a few, such as Bitcoin. Like, there's a lot of people sitting on Bitcoin that we don't even know about other than just addresses. It's good to say that those people, in order to allow some time for the financial institution money to get in, they end up selling off, not necessarily at a loss because they profit regardless. So say if you were sitting on 500,000 Bitcoin and you let 100,000 go just to help out your buddy or to sell to your buddy, you still made a profit anyway. But I believe it is manipulated, not by the bullion banks or anything like that, just because they want in on a profit. So I would imagine that a lot of bullion banks aren't really holding on to the crypto as much. I'm sure they're keeping a little bit, but because it's so volatile right now, they're probably exchanging it right into fiat. So I don't think they're sitting on a lot of crypto directly, other than just some of the staff or whatnot that might do it for personal reasons. But I don't think the bullion banks can really afford to hold on to large amounts of crypto, given the fact that the price could easily drop tomorrow. And so you never know. Nickel was needed during the war, so 5-cent pieces were made of silver. Yeah. Interesting. Me too. I like to ask for 5 to 10 nickels if I have change coming back. Yeah, that's the thing. Like, so even just the price, the melt value of a nickel, it's the only remaining coin that is actually the melt value, and the nominal and the face value are relatively the same. So I think to actually to mint a 5-cent nickel, it actually costs, I think, 5.2%, 5.2 cent or something like that. I think it costs 2 cents more or so, I think, to actually mint a nickel, because the metal is actually worth 5 cents, whereas in a penny, I think it's a lot different in an unfavorable way, as well as in every other coin. So I think a quarter, there's another website, there's a quarter where a quarter is like, 5 cents or 4 cents to mint a quarter because of the metal contents or something like that. Says, I have a suspicion that the Deutsche Bank had some problems with their silver derivative contracts. Sound familiar? Yeah, dude, I think Deutsche Bank is having problems in derivatives, period, because they are on the verge of basically going belly ups, and they are sitting on trillions, if not, probably, I don't know what the exact number is anymore, but they're sitting on trillions of derivatives. So they are waiting to implode any minute now. Copper pennies are a good hoard. Yeah, and that's the thing, like hoarding or holding on to copper in general is, it gets real heavy. I bought a 20 stack of copper rounds just because the design was real pretty, and I'm just holding the things, and them things are so heavy, and I just couldn't believe I bought 20 copper rounds. It was like $10 or something like that, but I like the design, so I bought them. But yeah, that's gonna be, you're gonna get heavy real fast with those things. 400 trillion. Okay, that's a different number. Like, and here's the thing. Here's the question I ask myself: how do you allow an institution, apart from the fact that all this was designed for them to profit, how do you let a bank take on that much in gambling? How you let them gamble that much to the point where there's no way of unraveling trillions upon trillions of derivatives? You cannot begin to sell that off to make right or make payment on a derivative that goes bad on your behalf. You are just screwed. But yet the whole time they're messing with depositors' funds. So they're actually utilizing depositors' funds to gamble. And so that is going to mess up a lot of people. A lot of people. Yeah. So my thing is, what else is going on out there? Anything else that I missed? What are your thoughts on some of the recent whiteboard presentations I did? The $233 trillion time bomb waiting to explode. And then I did the most recent one with the entitlement spending, of which I've got a lot of comments back from that Social Security is not an entitlement. It is something that retirees or people actually put into, which that is true. But here's another thought that I took in consideration when I made that, is the idea that the whole idea of Social Security in of itself was a gimmick posed in 1933 or whatever it was, after the Great Depression, as a way of just shifting some of the responsibility off the government directly by saying, hey, if you put aside some money, in this fund, which was funded up until, they started borrowing from it and can't repay it back. But, it was all fine and good as long as our nation wasn't so indebted. But now that we are sitting on more debt we can ever imagine, there's no way that they're going to be able to live up to those promises. So basically, the people who put in over their entire lifetime, they did honestly put in with the intent of being able to receive, but yet they were lied to because it was a hoax. It's a Ponzi scheme in and of itself. It's the fact that I read that the very first people who received funds from the fund, from the Social Security payouts, didn't even put in much. So they got a lifetime's worth. I think it was a lady who was the very first recipient. She ended up living to be 70, 80 years old or something like that. But she only put in like maybe a year or 2 years worth of funds when it was first started. But she ended up living like 20, 30 years. So she withdrew more than she put in. And that's how the cycle has been. So if people really realize that anything that the government suggests or anything they put out as an option is just it comes out as an afterthought to some type of problem they started. So like the My IRA. Here's another example. Like just, I think it was 3, 4, or 5 years ago, former President Obama mentioned about My IRA, contributing to your My IRA by trying to get new money or getting the younger generation to some fancy name called My IRA. Do you really think that those funds are going to be there down the line? You know, that's just a gimmick because they need money. They need to fund themselves, so they can promise you anything, but you know that they broke. So where the money gonna come from? So just the fact that they fell for that, you know, which I can't fault from, because at that time most not so many people thought that, you know, we'd be in a situation we're in now. But it's unfortunate that they fell for the lie, and they're going to be the first generation that that exposes the lie, because the baby boomer generation, in my opinion, won't be able to receive any type of payout as to what they're expecting in regards to Social Security. Nevertheless, all those other financial gimmicks in the form of 401ks, 403bs, and all the other stuff, because in my opinion, it was all designed to keep your money in the banking system or in the financial institution bank to circulate amongst the Wall Street, so they can always withdraw commissions off of all those exchanges. And so at the end of the day, people are going to be left out anyway. So, but that's just my thought. Tony B, it says, nice if you get in contact with somebody at basically and come out with a silver round for a few YouTubers or get out there. Oh man, Tony B, some RTD rounds. I actually thought about that and I looked into it, but just the cost of doing that would be, yeah, I would have to print up a large amount up front, which will require a big investment on my part, and I'm not sitting that heavy to where I can afford to the upfront costs to get a lot of rounds, even though I would love to have them myself, just because I think this whole experience of being able to talk to you guys and be able to do videos and whatnot, it's it's a blessing and a privilege to be able to get online and share my thoughts and connect with a community of people that think like me and vice versa. So it is a pleasure, it is a blessing to do that. So I might check into it and see if I can print off a small few and do a couple like some raffles or something, or some giveaways or whatnot. I would love to check into it. It says, if you're on Twitter, Minds, or somewhere else, I can send it to you. I'm just asking because I don't want to commit to it too much. Bold like a leopard. Not sure if that comment was for me. The comment Harry Dent says we should go into cash. Claims we are ahead for deflation. All with values. Yeah, that's the thing. Like, cash will serve its purpose in a short term, but I think in the long run, after the hiccup, the response to any type of crisis is going to be to monetize, or to borrow to monetize. So that short window between, say, some type of immediate crash, if there's a credit freeze, that means there's going to be a run on banks where people are going to try to get the cash. There's going to be a limited supply of cash, because once again, there's only 1.5 or 1 point something trillion dollars of cash actually in existence. Speaking of which, let me, since I'm on here, I feel like using some references. So as always, if you guys have watched and followed, I love visual aids, so I can actually tell you how much fiat currencies in circulation as in comparison to the actual dollars. So here we go right here. So I'll show you this if I can zoom in. But if you guys are interested, there's a visual aid I put together. I think it was last year. And if you go to rethinkingthedollar.com/dollarcation, you can actually get this graph here. And so I pulled it up right now. But if you go through here at the very bottom, I put how much money or how much currency is actually in circulation. And it has to do with the M1, M2 supply. And so where are we at right here? It's hard to see because I can't zoom in. But if you're able to see it, it says currency in circulation as of that 84. It was $172 million in circulation in 1984. So go to last year. It says currency in circulation. So as of 2017, there was 1.5 trillion worth of paper, paper, whether it be, and there's another graph I have somewhere where it actually breaks it down, but $1.5 trillion of actual physical paper that you can go withdraw, of which I believe a good portion of that paper is not even in this country. It is in the reserves and banks in South America and drug lords, basements and piled up in bundles. So all those bills are not even in this country. So we are working with a very small amount of paper to even distribute through the ATM machine. And so the M2, which is a total supply of deposit accounts, checking accounts, I think it's certificate deposits and all types of accounts, makes up the M2. And I think it says 13 trillion right here. So there's 13 trillion in digits with only 1.5 worth of actual paper to be claimed for those digits. So basically saying at the end of the day, if everybody with the bank account decided to go to the bank tomorrow to withdraw paper, there's no way in God green's earth there'll be enough paper to actually that people can actually withdraw. So here you have the idea of paper being worth something. Yeah, it's gonna be worth something because look how scarce it is. Paper in and of itself is scarce. Just the digital stuff is plentiful, and that's what people are gonna have a hard time being able to use, because once credit frees up, our system, the cards run off of being able to do digital transactions via credit anyway. Like when I ask you if it's debit or credit, you won't be able to hit credit because that'll be shut down, in my opinion, once the banking crisis freezes, because no one's gonna be lending at all. So that's just something worth thinking about. But if you guys are interested, rethinkingthedollar.com/dollarcation. I've been actually putting a lot of thoughts towards it. This is geared towards a webinar, because I have a concept called Dollarnomics, which is going to really be these details in a much finer presentation that I'm going to work on. That I have it in chunks. I just been so busy, I haven't been able to get to it. But that's yeah, man, that's what's happening. That is what's happening. So just more information for you guys. More tools I like to use to give people a visual aid of what's happening. It says if you're on Twitter. No, okay, I missed that one. So what do we got here? No, Marine Rep, is it on your site now? Yeah. So the so someone asked for someone asked for the SD bullion, and so I put it, it's just sdbullion.com/RTD. So if you go to any other prior videos, you'll see it in the bottom, and if you go right there, it'll give you the whole advertisement, what you can do. But it's a nifty opportunity to get something, save a couple dollars. So I've definitely taken advantage of it myself. Talk about the cost here. This audience might surprise you. Cash is for U.S. criminals. That earlier comment was for, okay, I would sit on 2 months of cash and $5 bills ready to spend in a bank run. Yeah, definitely smaller denominations. But also be careful having too much of those smaller denominations, because you might be mistaken for some type of drug lord or terrorist sponsor. So those are all things you got to be concerned with as well. You walk around with a wad of money during a banking crisis, they're going to suspect you stole it or you're doing something illegal, even though you're trying to feed yourself. I have it. Let me see. Marine Rep. So yeah, so that's what's going on, man. So we are approaching our hour point, and as always, you know what happens when we get close to that hour. It is time to say goodnight, just because it is late, and as always, because I've been ripping and running, I haven't really settled in for this evening. But it's been great to have a chance to get on, because I wasn't able to get on last week. Yeah, time flies when you're having fun, and been tied up in all types of things. So just some of the things I want to leave you guys with. If you are new and you're watching it for the first time, I want you to definitely take advantage of another opportunity to educate yourself or to share it with your family and friends. So I actually pull it up right now, but I love just finding new ways of being able to share information with people. So anytime I get an idea, I try to act on it relatively fast. So I'll actually pull up a couple of things here that I want to make sure you guys check out. And more importantly, what'll really be a blessing is to share the videos that you know that resonate with you, or share some of the resources that can help people really get to understanding what's going on. And my biggest thing is, and what I tell people is, assume I'm lying to you until you prove it for yourself by doing your own homework. That is the best way to really get people to wake up, is to say, hey, you know, I could be up here lying through my teeth. And so it's up to you to go find out for yourself, just because all this is my opinion based upon my research and my thoughts, my belief, and the wisdom God has given me, but it may not apply for everybody. And so I'm waiting on this page to load, but it is the page I want to direct you guys to is the RTD University page. And so this is basically the last 4 years, 4 years now, 4 years of work that I've done as far as just having a chance to speak to a lot of wise people. And so all the way from episode 1 up until episode 73 today, it's been a very informative journey, just getting a chance to talk with all these people and to be able to just reach out to them and talk to them and get their thoughts. And so here's a wealth of knowledge. I'm saying all this. This is just a wealth of knowledge for you guys to use as a tool to share with family, friends on any subject matter dealing with their finances or money. And then another one, of course, is one that you can get right away, and it's the free ebook I put together a few weeks ago. Just click the button, you'll have it right on your phone or your tablet. And more importantly, what I want people to do, if you have read this or have downloaded, there's a little like button here. There's a tweet button. There's a Google Plus. There's a pin it. Hit one of these buttons for me and show me some love by just sharing it with your family and friends. And if you haven't got my first book, this was a couple years ago, but very relevant. 4 money lessons that I think that definitely I didn't learn in school. I mean, I preface this to saying that, you know, from kindergarten all the way to a college degree, I didn't know none of this stuff. This is all just on my own, being introduced to all those gentlemen and young ladies that I've talked to. So just more resources, more tools for you guys to have access to share with your family and friends. So that's all I wanted to say. But anyway, everyone, have a good evening and enjoy yourself, and definitely keep fighting the good fight of faith. Keep fighting the good fight of faith, as well as make sure you get your weight up. That's gonna be my new slogan. So get your weight up, get heavy. Enjoy your evening.